This video is brought to you by my generous backers over on Patreon. If you'd like to support the channel and get cool perks like access to the Discord, seeing the videos a week before anyone else, or an entire video dedication, then feel free to check out my Patreon. The link's in the description below. This video is dedicated to James Humphreys. James, thank you. Yarok the Desecrated versus Maelstrom Wanderer, Lyzolda the Blood Witch, and Atris, Oracle of Half-Truths. That is a pretty poor hand. I like the lands, but yeah, let's risk a mulligan on that one. Okay, well we've got Icefang Coatl. I think we can draw a card with this. Yeah, we can draw a card with that, and it has flash, so yeah, that's pretty good. Let's keep that one. Just a turn 1 land from Mooney, so it's always good to not have a lot of mana dorks coming out and mana rocks on turn 1 from the Maelstrom Wanderer player. I don't think we need to go in for Muldrifter just yet. Let's just get down the command tower and pass. Rakdos Cackler coming down, so obviously some kind of rush deck that comes down with a plus counter on it. Thanks to Unleash. Then Sylvan Library for Maelstrom Wanderer. Definitely have my eyes glued over here. Maelstrom Wanderer is a frightening commander. Need to adapt my 1v1 list for multiplayer actually. I do enjoy playing Maelstrom Wanderer. Okay, Manglehorn. I think we just go for Icefang Coatl. And Mooney not going for the extra cards with Sylvan Library, just deciding to reorganise the top 3 there. And speaking of Mooney, we do have 3 patrons for the channel, so Mooney Boy is on Maelstrom Wanderer. We've got Lyzolda being piloted by Home Doggy. And then Cranial Mage is on Atris, Oracle of Half-Truths, and a Brainstorm coming in from the Maelstrom Wanderer player. Then following things up with Simic Signet, and they'll probably just have to pass the turn from there, so we'll go in with this Icefang Coatl. And hopefully this will get us into a land. It does not. Some Simulacrum can get us into a land at least. And there's a Zeusa with no lands in hand. So let's go for the Mana Crypt, and we'll go in for Solemn from there. That can be an island, and then we'll just leave it at that. Watcher for Tomorrow coming down from Cranial, and then managing to make the land for the turn as well. Then a Bloodghast, that's a favourite of mine. Really goes well with fetches and a Skull Clamp. But it's also good sack fodder for their commander, which is most likely why it's in here. Then a Vandal Blast, going on to Mana Crypt. That is going to hurt. At least we can still go for Muldrifter and try and get into lands. But yeah, that's going to slow us down quite a lot, because we're not having the best of luck getting into lands at the moment. The 2-2 this time going in at Cranial. Last attack it went in at Mooney. And now, wow, a Time Twister coming from the Maelstrom Wanderer player. So, well, that gets us into some lands at least. Unfortunately, we don't have the Azusa anymore. Although we do have one means of dealing with the Maelstrom Wanderer in Gilded Drake. Maelstrom Wanderer is a really difficult one to deal with, so quite happy to have the Gilded Drake in hand. We also get back into the Manglehorn and the Muldrifter. So there we are, it comes back round to our turn. I think, yeah, getting down the Panharmonicon's good, because we've got some good ETB effects in hand, and we should be able to ramp nicely with that Farhaven Elf next turn, so going for that would be good. We could go for that and Gilded Drake maybe, if our opponent manages to get down the Maelstrom Wanderer next turn. Spellseeker and a Felwar Stone from Cranial, and they have revealed a Demonic Tutor off of that. Now a sack outlet over here in Phyrexian Tower, so they can go up by 5 mana. And then coming in at us with both of them. Do we want to draw a card or not? I think I'll leave a potential Death Toucher in play, and we'll just get rid of this. That way we draw a card and we get rid of one of our opponent's creatures. This thing comes back easily enough, so I'm not going to concentrate on that. Hopefully someone can exile it. although it's not likely with the colours that are in play. Alright, so sacrificing the Rakdos Cackler in response so that the Solemn doesn't die, and then Dictate of Erebos comes down, so yeah, none of the creatures are going to die yet. So we won't be forced to sacrifice, but this is definitely something to watch out for. Sky Shroud claim now for Maelstrom Wanderer, so we're not going to see that this turn, but that is 4, 5, 6, and 8. I think Maelstrom Wanderer is 8, isn't it? Yes, it is, so we may well see that next turn. Then a Phyrexian Metamorph coming down. They make a copy of the Panharmonicon. Does this is on entry or casting? I think it's casting, isn't it? Yeah, that's how it gets around counter magic. But maybe they've got ETBs in the deck to get down off of their cascade effects. So let's see here. We could get rid of a couple of things here in the Signet and the Panharmonicon. Anyway, let's get that down so that we give this Death Touch. And then as much as I would like to get down the Farhaven Elf, I think we have to go for the Manglehorn, to be honest. So let's throw that into play. Get rid of those two artifacts, and we'll pretend to hold up some counter magic, I think. Yeah, there's nothing we want to grab with Gilded Drake at the moment. Then we'll hold our blockers back and pass it over to Cranial. Rhystic Study coming down from the Dimir player, followed by that Demonic Tutor that they went for previously. And then in for a Sol Ring. No idea if that's what they tutored for or not, but it does come in tapped thanks to the Manglehorn. Sacrificing the Bloodghast over here to the Phyrexian Tower, which means we all have to sack a creature, and we will go for the Solemn just for the card draw. Our opponent goes for the Watcher for tomorrow, so they'll get this into their hand. Obviously it's face down, so we don't know what that is that's going into their hand. And a Guardian Project for us, which is good with a bunch of creatures in hand. We just need the mana to do all this stuff at the moment. Okay, Boris Devil Boon, I have never seen this. That is 4 and tap, create a Rakdos Demon creature named Minor Demon. Well, Mooney is still at 8 mana, so we could still see the Maelstrom Wanderer come down. With us having a Death Toucher in play, I don't think it'll come in towards us anyway, although Maelstrom Wanderer players don't often hate the idea of recasting their commander. And there it is, going to feed a card to the Rhystic Study, thanks to the fact that they've tapped out for this. So it might be that leaving the Maelstrom Wanderer in play is a good idea anyway, to try and reduce the life total of these two players. Oh, Nexus of Fate, alright. So they'll take an extra turn after this one, which means 2 swings in with the Maelstrom Wanderer. And then a Wood Elves, so that is half the commander tax paid for. Typically what happens a lot with Maelstrom Wanderer is you often just get into more mana, but that just means that when the Wanderer is dealt with, you can recast it again straight away. And we're seeing that here a little bit with the Wood Elves coming down. Alright, and it looks to me we've got the Wood Elves going in at the Dimir player. That's coming in at us, so I would assume that they'd want to recast their Maelstrom Wanderer again. Yeah, I think we just throw the Manglehorn away here. I want the Mana Rocks to come in tapped, but I also want to keep the Death Toucher. So let's just throw it like that. If they come in at us again next turn, we'll be forced to throw away the Death Toucher, but I don't want them recasting that on their extra turn. Then the Sensei's Top being spun before their extra turn. Yeah, and it's coming back in at us, so they definitely want to go for a cascade off of that. That might mean that they don't really have anything in hand that they want to do. They also know what's on top thanks to Sensei's Top, so they're obviously trying to get into something. I'm actually going to take this, because it might be that they're just going for another extra turn that they've seen off of the top. So as much as I don't want to take 7 points of commander damage, or potentially more if they give it double strike, I also don't want them cascading into stuff that they know is there. The Wood Elves went down to the Spellseeker, by the way, and now a Farseek is being cast, so that will shuffle the top cards of the library. So maybe they didn't have something on top that they care about casting. Now a Bribery coming from Mooney onto us. And that's a really good one to take away from us in Yarok. Woodland Bellower, especially with Panharmonicon in play. Glad we got rid of their Panharmonicon now. They'll be able to search for a creature with CMC 3 or less, and they go for Somberwald Sage, which does have haste. Anyway, we can go for... I think Guardian Project into Gilded Drake is okay. So let's grab ourselves a Simic land. Get down the Guardian Project. We'll just feed some cards to Cranial. I really can't be paying into the Rhystic Study at the moment because we've got a Maelstrom Wanderer that's consistently coming after us. So we really can't worry about the Dimir player at the moment. And it's noteworthy that we are allowing the Dimir player to get into the late game. So we'll get a couple of cards being drawn thanks to Panharmonicon, and then Gilded Drake can grab the Maelstrom Wanderer so that we don't have to worry about it coming in after us anymore. And I don't think the second trigger does anything. Yeah, I'm going to put them both on the Maelstrom Wanderer so nothing goofy happens. I think the second trigger usually fizzles. Oh, Gilded Drake goes into the graveyard. Well, I didn't know that, but we still get to keep our opponent's Maelstrom Wanderer. Okay, well, I'm glad I targeted it twice. I don't know if that helped the Gilded Drake go into the bin. You can always leave me a comment and let me know what happens there. I'm sure many of you are already typing. Oh, and that actually fizzled the Guardian Project then, didn't it? That is strange. So maybe it still needs to see the creature in play before this resolves. So I should have put the Gilded Drake triggers on the stack first and then had this resolve. Ah, well, I'm learning all sorts today. Gonti, Lord of Luxury for the Dimir player now, and they have their own Panharmonicon. They're going to go after one at us and one at the Maelstrom Wanderer. Then in response to that, City of Brass is being tapped down. And they're just going to spin the top with that. How many cards do they reveal? It's 4 cards they reveal with Gonti, so there's no way they can reorder the cards with Sensei's top so that Gonti doesn't see them. But maybe they could put the best card on top and then draw into it with Sensei's top. That does risk Gonti stealing the top from them though. A land coming down for Home Doggy, so the Bloodghast is going to come back. Oh dear, and then they're going to make us maybe sacrifice the Maelstrom Wanderer. Really don't want to sacrifice Maelstrom Wanderer. Oh, but over here the 6/5 has gone down, so yeah, let's just get rid of this Ice Fang Coatl then. I really want to try my best to keep this in play. A Kurvek the Merciless now. Whenever an opponent casts a spell, it deals damage to any target equal to the CMC. Mystic Confluence coming from Mooney, and of course they're going to give themselves back their Maelstrom Wanderer. So they'll actually get around the command attacks there. But at least we're forcing them to use Mystic Confluence. So they take a hit for 5. And they're also bouncing these 2 creatures as well. But the 5 damage from Kurvek goes onto this, so that forces them into using the command attacks. So beam recast again. Cranial's going to go up to 10 cards in hand. And let's keep our fingers crossed that nothing too dangerous comes down off of the Maelstrom Wanderer. Can Jace the Mind Sculptor bounce the Maelstrom Wanderer? Return a target creature to its owner's hand, so they could do that if they wanted to. And then a Future Sight as well. And the Nexus of Fate is back on top with the Future Sight, so another extra turn can come about there. Going for the Brainstorm with Jace, and they no longer have Nexus of Fate on top. We don't know what the other 2 cards are, but they could swing in at us for 14 points of Commander and then bounce it next turn, or recast it next turn. And then go in for the Nexus of Fate extra turn and the, I think they've got Rishkar's Expertise on top for drawing a bunch of cards. Anyway, not swinging in at us, going for 7 points of Commander onto Cranial. And then we've got Crucible of Worlds, which is not terrible when we've got fetches. Let's go for a fetch now, we need another black mana. And again, I'm not going to go for the Rhystic Study because of Maelstrom Wanderer running roughshot over here. If we can give them a bunch of answers, then that's going to be okay, I think. So we go in for Farhaven Elf and then Muldrifter to draw some cards and hopefully Farhaven can chump block the Maelstrom Wanderer. Yeah, we'll just do that. And we've actually got a mana free here because we're going to go for 3 mana on the Mulldrifter. So we'll pay into the Rhystic Study this once. And then we'll get into the habit of going for the ETBs on the creatures first so that the Guardian Project will resolve first. Just so that we don't get another Gilded Drake fiasco like we did last time. And then we'll go in for an Evoked Mulldrifter. And at this point I'm hoping for Azusa to show up again. Taking Cranial up to 13 cards in hand to start their turn with. So we're going to draw a bunch here. We're going to draw 2 from Mulldrifter twice, which is obviously 4, and then 2 from Guardian Project. That draws us 6. And, had I not have tapped for the Rhystic Study, we might have been able to go Exploration there. And thanks to Reliquary Tower, we don't have to discard. We've actually got Ramunap and the Azusa as well. So that is a lot of lands that we can play per turn. But we'll probably just end up going Azusa next turn and emptying our hand of lands. Peregrine Drake, that's a combo piece from Cranial. And it will trigger twice thanks to the Panharmonicon. Floating a bunch of mana in response and then going for Ravenous Chupacabra, which will blow up 2 creatures. And yeah, I was going to say I would get rid of these 2 if I were you. Don't think anyone needs to be worrying about a Farhaven Elf all that much. Then going for Archaeomancer, they have got Demonic Tutor and Ghostly Flicker. And yep, they get to go after both of them thanks to Panharmonicon doing some work for them over there. Heading in for Demonic Tutor again. Then playing a Lightning Greaves. And that goes on to the Peregrine Drake. And that can swing in at Jace the Mind Sculptor, which might be what they're aiming to do. Yep, going in at Jace. Land coming down from Home Doggy, so of course they get their Bloodghast back again. And Goblin Bombardment, there's another sack outlet and a much more consistent one than the Phyrexian Tower. And that can actually deal the last point of damage to Jace the Mind Sculptor. They'll have to force us all to sacrifice a creature in order to do that though. And their commander finally coming down. And then deciding to sacrifice the Bloodghast as we assumed that they would. And that goes on Jace. We have to sacrifice our Farhaven Elf. And the Archaeomancer goes down over here. Can't leave this graveyard open for some strange reason. So that leaves us wide open. And chances are that the Maelstrom Wanderer is going to have an extra turn with that Nexus of Fate. So they're probably, it's on top there. They're probably going to swing in at us twice. And here he comes, Maelstrom Wanderer. And they get the extra turn card on top as well. Now, we could be saved by Home Doggy if they decide to go for a sacrifice of their commander. Then that would get rid of Maelstrom Wanderer and would force them to play it again next turn. A Nazal is on top now. So that switches off that line of play because Nazal will hit the field before Maelstrom Wanderer does. So even if the Rakdos player was going to help save us there, I don't think they can now. Alright, Goblin Bombardment. Yep, they are going to sacrifice it. It will leave them with the Maelstrom Wanderer in play. And this will force them to sacrifice the Nazal. 1 point of damage going on to Mooney himself, by the way. And in response to that, they're deciding to try and keep this. You discard 3 cards and exile it. Return it under its owner's control at the beginning of the next end step. What did they exile? Or actually not exile, they discard, don't they? They got rid of the Rishkar's Expertise, they decided to draw into that. And then a Cultivate and a land. Now let's see if we are dealt with. It is going in at the Rakdos player, maybe because of the sack outlet and the Dictate of Erebos combo. Realising that Home Doggy could be a problem. Then at the end of the turn, the Nazal comes back in and the extra turn begins. A Scroll Rack, so getting into all the cards they need for Maelstrom Wanderer. Got a means of stacking the top of the library with Sylvan Library, the Sensei's top, and now they've got access to a Scroll Rack as well. You can obviously see the top of the library with Future Sight. Playing the Coalition Relic off the top and revealing the dreaded Consecrated Sphinx. Apparently they didn't need Rishkar's Expertise to refill their hand. Deciding to shuffle that Consecrated Sphinx away with the Wooded Foothills, which is surprising. I'm half tempted to go after it with the Agent of Treachery in that case. Thran Dynamo comes down off the top. Now a Prime Speaker Zagana, that's a means of drawing a lot of cards. They'll draw 8 here thanks to the 7 power plus the 1 power of Prime Speaker. And that lands, so 10 cards in hand with a Solemn on top. And for all we know, they've drawn into the Consecrated Sphinx again now. Then following things up with Mana Crypt, I dare say we're going to struggle keeping the Maelstrom Wanderer out of play this game. We need something like a Song of the Dryads. Playing out a Mana Vault from the hand as well. Following all of that up with the Nature's Law, they do have 3 floating from the Mana Vault. So they're probably going to go in for Solemn after this. Nature's Law brings in an untapped land. Although they'll shuffle away the Solemn, won't they? Yeah, so I don't know what their aim is. Maybe they've got a Mana Rock in hand. Alright, so Wheel of Fortune. We don't have an incredible hand, but we do have a means of ramping a hell of a lot next turn, so disappointed to see that, to be honest. Although there's counter magic held up over here, so hopefully they're going for the counter. Teferi's Time Twist comes down. Exile a target permanent you control and return it to the battlefield under its owner's control. They go for Ravenous Chupacabra, so no counter magic seemingly. Okay, let's see what was in hand there. Oh, hang on. There's a mana drain here. Yeah, they had Conjurer's Closet and Mana Drain, Torment of Hailfire, Deadeye Navigator. Ooh, Deadeye's good to get rid of because Peregrine Drake is in play. Not the type of combo that's easy to pull off on Magic Online. Although with a Grave Titan it does go infinite. Yeah, Venser, Solemn. Yeah, they had a Mana Drain there. I'm surprised they allowed the wheel to go through. Maelstrom Wanderer going in at the Rakdos player again. Nazal going in at Dimir. And we are getting an 8/8 Prime Speaker Zagana. Then at the end of the turn, the Teferi's Time Twist is going to bring back the Chupacabra. And what do they try and get rid of here? Yeah, aiming it at the Nazal again, maybe to just encourage them to discard 3 cards. So they do go for the discard with Nazal. They discarded 3 lands. And they got rid of their own scroll rack, noticeably. So they did get that into hand previously. Now then, we could Demonic Tutor and go for Azusa. Or do we just go for Royal Elemental and try and steal this back again? The Rakdos player is probably going to force us to sacrifice it again, that's the only problem. Let's go for the Demonic Tutor and have a look. Again, not going to bother paying for Rhystic because it doesn't seem as though the Dimir player is doing anything too crazy. Haven't really had chance to with Maelstrom Wanderer running roughshod all over everyone. But Royal Elemental, has that hit the bin? Or maybe it was exiled with Gonti. I don't think we have Royal Elemental. No, that's the exile zone, isn't it? So I think our opponent's got our Royal Elemental. Alright, in that case. I'm going to go for Agent of Treachery for the fun of it, I think. Yeah, let's go with Necromancy then. We'll try and land our commander. Say no to Rhystic Study. We'll draw 3 cards thanks to Yarok and Panharmonicon. Then we play Necromancy at sorcery speed so that we don't have to sacrifice it at the end of the turn. Now, I've had trouble with Necromancy and Yarok before. What's supposed to happen is I think you're supposed to keep the first card you go for. But just in case we don't, let's just grab Azusa. How will it work? No, the first one can be Agent of Treachery. Then we can go Azusa. And I think Magic Online's a bit funny and it might not let us keep the Azusa, which resolves first. Anyway, we'll soon find out. I think what's supposed to happen here is Necromancy's supposed to trigger, and then it will move. Yeah, there we go. It moves over onto our Agent of Treachery, and we keep the Azusa. So I think that is what is going to occur here. So we'll go after Maelstrom Wanderer. We'll go after the Goblin Bombardment, and we will go after... Oh, it's a tough call. I think I want to get rid of that Sylvan Library, but with Sensei's top in play, I don't think it really matters. I think we just go for this Panharmonicon. Get into that Villainous Wealth, so if we can get a mana doubler in play, that would be really good. We get into the new Fassa as well. Then we'll try and chip down Mooney a little bit more, because something tells me that they're not out of this game just yet. We draw 3 cards with Agent of Treachery, because we took 3 of our opponent's things with the Agent of Treachery. Oh, we get into Field of the Dead and Risen Reef. There's some really good draws. So hopefully we can keep Azusa in play. Diluvian Primordial now. There's some tutors in graveyards. I don't know if there's any board wipes that have been discarded. Yep, they're going for our Demonic Tutor. And what is this? A Bribery as well. Nothing to play out of here. Looks as though Bribery is targeting us. They went for our Avenger of Zendikar, luckily without the Panharmonicon. Just getting themselves into a bunch of blockers. Certainly worse creatures they could have gone for with that. And getting into their Cabal coffers, I dare say that's what they tutored for. So they got a lot of black mana available to them now. Okay, it's a Reanimate. Don't know what that's targeting yet. It was their own Noxious Gearhulk that they have reanimated. And going after our Agent of Treachery. Ah, that's how it works. Okay, so it triggers twice and it doesn't care about who it's currently enchanting. So it did get rid of our Azusa there. I think we need more reanimation in this deck. I think Necromancy is the only form of reanimation that we have in this deck. Now a Siren's Ruse. Exile a target creature you control and return it to the battlefield. If it was a pirate, draw a card, so they're just going in for the Peregrine Drake. Oh, but maybe it's just as well that we don't have more reanimation, because Ashiok Dreamrender is coming down now. That's going to get rid of everyone's graveyard. And they mill Mooney's library. Now a hasty Avenger of Zendikar going in at the Maelstrom Wanderer player, and the Ravenous Chupacabra with a +1 counter going in over there as well. They've gotten in a Consecrated Sphinx as well. I didn't see that sneak down. Finally, getting round to Home Doggy's turn, I was just thanking him for his patience, because he's the only one who hasn't brought a blue deck, and blue can be a real pain in the neck to play against sometimes. Turns a little bit into a match of just watching your opponents play. They're playing themselves a Sol Ring and keeping both the blue players in cards. Then a Crypt Ghast, so getting some ramp on the go. Then a Nether Traitor, so that's probably just some kind of combo piece. Then extorting everyone with the Crypt Ghast as well. Then a Diabolic Intent. They had to sacrifice the Nether Traitor in order to tutor that up. Forcing us all to sacrifice a creature at this point. I think with 2 Panharmonicons in play, we don't really need to keep our Yarok. I definitely want to keep hold of Maelstrom Wanderer for as long as I can. Ooh, there's a Karn Liberated on top. Yeah, I really don't see how we're going to wriggle out of this one against the 2 blue players that are drawing a boatload of cards and in a heap of mana. Oh, but of course, the Diabolic Intent doesn't allow Home Doggy to tutor because of Ashiok Dreamrender. I actually forgot about that myself. So spells and abilities that opponents control can't cause them to search their library. That does include things like Springbloom Druid and Nissa. Now Cathari Bomber coming down. Whenever it deals combat damage to a player, create a couple of goblins. Yeah, so definitely trying to get a bunch of sack fodder into play. Now Nazal's coming down again at the end of the turn, and Mooney will draw into the Karn Liberated. In response to that, Vamp Tutor coming down from home, I think. No, it wasn't home, it was Cranial Mage going for the Vamp Tutor. Then at the beginning of the turn, reorganising the top 3. I don't know if their aim is to get the Maelstrom Wanderer back this turn and get into Karn off of the Cascade. But we will sacrifice it in response to anything they go for anyway. Thanks to our Goblin Bombardment. Yeah, so they drew into Beast Within, and now the Karn is back on top. Consecrated Sphinx. We'll draw Cranial into even more stuff. We could try and help mill out Cranial Mage if they keep drawing cards with Villainous Wealth. They've got 35 left in the library at the moment. They'll have even more cards in hand if Sylvan Library allows Mooney to draw some cards. Beast Within now being cast and going on to the Planeswalker. Sanctum of Eternity now. Return target commander you own from battlefield to your hand. So in response to that, we'll just force them to play it out of the command zone by sacrificing it. And I have no idea how much their commander costs now. Probably 12, something like that. But they're going into combat, so maybe we don't have to worry about it being cast this turn. The Nazal is going in at the Dimir player. Just chump blocking with a plant token, so nothing really happens there. Tapping down a bunch of mana there, including the City of Brass, but they've done it at the end of the turn, so they're going for a spin on the top. Oh, they drew a card from the Sensei's top, that's why it's on top of the library now. So we don't know what card they have in hand, because I couldn't see how they reorganise things. I think it's 13 mana they've got here, if I counted correctly, so... Now then, we've got Sakura Tribe Elder. What do we want to do this turn? There's 23 cards over here, 31. If we had a mana doubler, we could probably mill out this player. I think maybe we go in for Yarok again. And then Ravenous Chupacabra and Rex Sage. Maybe that's an idea. And if that's the plan, then I'm going to continue to say no to Rhystic Study. Might be that the Villainous Wealth gets countered, but at least it'll get counters out of their hand. And we're not going to do it this turn anyway. Draw a bunch with Guardian Project. And every time we draw, it will encourage the Dimir player to draw 2 as well, although they don't have to. It is a May ability. And it seems as though they're deciding to stick at 24 cards in hand. Okay, so we have a Venser in hand. I think I want to get down the Lotus Cobra because it is another creature that we can potentially sacrifice, and it's a good means of ramp as well. Okay, and now we get into Duplicant. Actually, that's pretty good, isn't it? Oh, we can only play one land though, can't we? Missing Explore and Azusa now. Oh, although we'll get mana off of this, won't we? If we go for Misty Rainforest, that should be okay, shouldn't it? Yeah, I wanted to get down Field of the Dead this turn, but let's go Misty Rainforest. We'll say yes and yield to the Lotus Cobra, and we actually get 2 mana here, so maybe we can go for Oracle and Field of the Dead. Yeah, so then if we tap down those 2, we can still go for Oracle. And then we get a bunch of triggers. Our top of the library is revealed now as well. We've got a Strip Mine, so we can get rid of Cabal Coffers if we wanted to. Alright, Nazal is going to respond to that by discarding some stuff from hand and exiling itself. They get rid of a couple of lands and a Dak Faden. Okay, still 25 cards in the deck over here, so we'll have to try and set that up for next turn. Not getting into any mana doublers. I think I've got some of those in this deck. Anyway, let's go Field, and that'll get us a couple more mana, and then I think we're concentrating on Duplicant and getting a bunch of stuff exiled from the Dimir player. We'll go for green with that, and I'm actually not too sure how many lands we can still go for with Misty, so I'm actually going to do that in response while I can see that we've got a forest left in the library. Because I don't want to... Oh, we've actually got quite a few targets left on that, so let's just go for the island. So we need to remember we've got 3 basics in the library still. Triggering Field of the Dead each time. And there we go, we've got the Zendikar Resurgence, so that's some double mana. That's on top, and we're about to draw into it. There's nothing else to do, I don't think. We could go for the Sakura Tribe Elder, actually. Sakura Tribe Elder gets us into a land, which makes a mana, puts us down to 2 floating, makes 2 mana from Lotus Cobra, so we'll have 4, 5 and 6. I think we can still do that. Then we need to be careful about what we draw into. We just got into Zendikar Resurgent. I will take the Sol Ring. We just need to make sure that we don't take any basics out. So I think in response we'll leave that Polluted Delta in the library and we'll go for a basic now. Grab ourselves a black mana, triggering Lotus Cobra again. And that's interesting because the Sakura Tribalkai wasn't in play still. The Guardian Project didn't trigger, so the last two triggers didn't allow us to draw into the top two cards. Anyway, yeah, thankfully that doesn't matter. So let's get down this duplicant and we can finally pass our turn over. Not going to pay into the Rhystic Study, I've hardly done it all game, and the plan currently is to mill out the Dimir player, so hopefully we can do that next turn maybe. Unless they're going for Counterspell. So after all of that, they had a Counterspell in hand, as you would expect, so no duplicant for us, but at least we got a bunch of zombies that we can sacrifice in response to the Dictate of Erebos. And we could always take the Maelstrom Wanderer player out of the game as well by sacrificing zombies in response to a rift or something like that. I'm surprised we haven't seen a rift yet. Okay, and Mooney deciding to concede. Oh dear, Cranial Mage. Okay, so... Alright, well, not having any luck here today whatsoever. No idea what went on there. It shouldn't have timed out Cranial because we were waiting on Mooney. Mooney actually timed out there, and that's why he got booted. But no idea why Cranial left there. Anyway, we'll just have to we'll have to see if Home can do anything. Mayhem Devil coming down, and Cryptghast allowing to extort. Yeah, I had a game in which one patron decided to early scoop and a random decided to scoop as well. It was the two Daxos decks that ended up pitting it out against each other. I think it was Outlaw and myself. And yeah, now we've had a couple of players leave early in this one as well. So apologies, it's probably going to be a bad week for videos for you this week. But there's not a right lot I can do about it. Huge shout out to Home Doggy though, because he's shown incredible patience in this game, now going for Mayhem Devil in response to Myriad Landscape. Let's sacrifice that in response. We choose this thing. Definitely want rid of the Mayhem Devil. Oh, and of course, every time we sacrifice something with Goblin Bombardment, they can ping something with Mayhem Devil because it's whenever a player sacrifices. So 1 point of damage goes onto Yarok, 1 onto the Mayhem Devil. And then that one fizzles because it was going onto Lotus Cobra. But yeah, like I said, Home Doggy showing incredible patience there. Rakdos isn't really the type of deck that's just going to play with itself for any length of time. I have said to the players that if you want to get any faster games going, then maybe bringing Blue Control isn't the way to do that. And I'm actually going to say that there's no blue allowed in the next game because it just drags games out for an absolute age. So we'll have to see if we can get 3 patrons without blue decks. Then this thing comes in at us. It's when it deals combat damage, isn't it? So I think before they get any sack fodder, I just want to get rid of Mayhem Devil, so we'll get rid of the zombie. And then whatever they point damage at, assuming they pointed at a zombie, we'll probably sacrifice it. Nope, they're going after the Oracle of Muldiah, so we'll go for another zombie and try and get rid of this thing. Nope, they're going after the Oracle of Muldiah, so we'll allow that to hit. Allow the Goblin Bombardment to hit. And then we'll go for another zombie and get rid of that, because Mayhem Devil is going to be a real pain to deal with. So yeah, they are going on to the Oracle of Muldiah. Might as well sacrifice the Oracle then. We'll ping this thing. Which means that the Devil is going to be able to ping something else. Not really worried what they go for with that. Alright, so finally getting rid of the Mayhem Devils. They can bring back their Nether Traitor if they want to here. Okay, now I think we're in a more commanding position than our opponent is, obviously, so I want to wrap this up as quickly as possible. Home has already given us enough of his time. And I'm sure he hasn't had a particularly fun game. So we'll go for Strip Mine. That will trigger field twice. And I want to play Strip Mine to get rid of the Phyrexian Tower because that will rid them of sack outlets. But in response, it looks like they're going to sacrifice the Nether Traitor, which will force us to get rid of a zombie. Then we'll get down Sol Ring, get rid of the Phyrexian Tower. We'll go in for the Zendikar Resurgent, just so we can get closer to a win this turn. I don't think we can win this turn, but we can get damn near to it, hopefully. So Reclamation Sage comes in. We have to be careful with how many creatures we cast with the Zendikar Resurgent out. We'll get to blow up 3 things, which is all of our opponent's enchantments and artifacts. We've drawn into Marasa. We've got haste on the Lightning Greaves, so let's just play that. Let's just get down the Demon, because that's an evasive creature. Then we'll tutor through our 23 cards 3 times, and we'll draw 3 cards. And what have we actually got here? Alright, Body Double might be half decent. We've got Titania, right, definitely take Titania. Eternal Witness, and we'll take the Body Double as well. Then we're going for Greaves onto the Runescarred Demon. And we'll swing in with our 2 things. I don't know if Home is going to block with the Cryptghast. And I think we just leave it there. I've no idea if we can fetch up any more lands with these. But I think we've got an Urborg in hand that we can play next turn. Yeah, we can. Yeah, we've had all of our multiple land drops a turn dealt with this game. And they just get into a land, so deciding to play out the land and pass. Don't know if they'll go in for their commander. He does decide to. Lyzolda deciding to sacrifice herself, 2 damage to a target creature, and draw a card. I mean, they might as well. They're in a really tough spot now. So that's it. We get through to the end of the turn. Let's see if we can actually do anything that would warrant a victory. What do we draw into? Nothing much. So I think it's the Sire of Stagnation, maybe. Or maybe it's just Green Warden of Marasa. I'm trying to play big creatures so that we can actually win this quite quickly. That'll get us a bunch of stuff back. We'll go for Oracle. Huge shout out to Home for sitting through this. Yeah, we'll just get some lands back. Doesn't really matter. I'm going to go in for the... Oh, actually, we need to get a land out of the bin, don't we? So we'll go Lotus Cobra. Not going to play Lotus Cobra. It's way too many triggers. But yeah, we're going to go for Titania this turn as well and try and flood the board with tokens. Go in for Titania. And she can get multiple lands back. Shouldn't have grabbed the lands with the Green Warden of Marasa, but I don't think it really matters at this point. Noteworthy that we've only got, 8 cards left in the deck. So we really need to be drawing the game to a close. And this is whenever a non-token enters, so it doesn't trigger on entry, so I'm not going to play any more creatures now. We'll just put the boots over there, and we can actually... Yeah, I think we can just swing in with everything, and hopefully the attack next turn will be the lethal one. Never know, our opponent might get into a board wipe and drag the game out long enough to have us deck ourselves, and that would be a win and a half for them. So let's get down another fetch, and I think that can be that. We'll just get down the crypt just in case, but I really don't think it matters. Yeah, that can be that. Oh, Lightning Greaves on here. We definitely want to keep our Titania. Oh, what am I thinking? We've knocked our opponent down to 3, so we've got Goblin Bombardment. Let's just put them out of their misery. Huge thank you to Home Doggy for playing that out. Really wasn't trying to drag the game out or anything like that. It's just that... oh, and then the bad luck continues. Home just had a land in hand. Yeah, so it's a tricky one to work out. If someone brings what they would deem as a fun deck that's not as competitive as Force of Wills and mana drains and all that type of stuff, draw 57 cards with 2 mana, then yeah, it doesn't exactly lend itself well to certain decks being played with each other. But it's difficult to say beforehand what everyone's playing just based on power level, so minus knowing each other's decks inside and out, I don't really see how we can avoid it, to be honest, other than banning blue for a game, which is what I'm going to do in the next game. So hopefully the next game will be better than this one and we won't get any early scoops or anything like that. Apologies for that, but like I said, not a whole lot I can do about it. Hopefully you enjoyed the game anyway. Be sure to leave it a thumbs up if you did. I'm tribalkai on the EDH channel. Thank you for watching.